Ja, då har vi ett nytt bolag på scen. Vi ska prata om övervikt och typ 2-diabetes. Det är Pila Pharma som är här och deras vd Gustav Hanghøj Gram. Välkommen. Kör igång så kommer jag tillbaka med lite frågor.
Tack. And I will do this in English. I assume that most of you here are comfortable with English. I will speak relatively slow, sometimes a little fast, to make sure we can get through everything. But it's nice to be back here in Stockholm to see some familiar faces. And today I will present our company. We have, of course, been here before, so many of you may know what we do. But my name is Gustav Gram. I am the CEO of Pila Pharma, and we are developing a novel type of oral treatment for obesity and type 2 diabetes and all of the comorbidities related to these diseases. So, very interesting subject. Of course, with us as Scandinavians, we've been exposed to a lot of news, both recently as well as in the past couple of years, about how explosive this obesity market is. So today I will go through a little bit about the market as well as what we have in mind. We are working on what's called the first-in-class opportunity, so it is a completely different target than what else is out there in the market. We think this is the way to go forward. We also believe very firmly that in order to address the market, you need an oral solution. So this I will get into a bit of today. We will talk a little bit about the market size, of course, which is incomprehensible almost to many people, as well as our team, what has happened since I was last here in June, and of course the next critical and interesting steps for the company. So it goes without saying that obesity and the related diseases such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, renal disease, kidney disease, basically any inflammatory condition that derives from having too much excess adiposity is a very, very costly affair on a global basis. We are dealing with this on a global stage. It is prevalent in all continents, and the cost is only going to rise as we get more and more. There's no development that is positive in the sense we are seeing people living with obesity rates rising. People living with diabetes is also rising about 8% a year. So this is truly pandemic levels, and we are going to have to pay for this some way or another. But that, of course, also comes with the opportunities that those companies that can bring forward solutions that can help treat these comorbidities and all of the costs for the societies, they stand to be in a very lucrative space. So current estimates for this market is around $100 billion yearly from the 2030s. This is as good a guess as anyone else's. Some are mentioning 50 billion, some are mentioning 200 billion. I think what goes beyond the numbers is that this is going to be a massive market, and it is increasing. We're also seeing that beyond just the medical use for obesity products, we're also seeing increases in cosmetic uses, aesthetic uses, people that want to look good next summer, so they might go on a product like Ozempic for a couple of months in order to shed some weight. So there's a huge off-label market, and definitely we see the market transitioning towards scalable solutions, oral solutions, whereas companies will compete more so on the masser market, and will have to compromise a bit on their margins. There's definitely a space for the GLP-1s, which have been fantastic, but it will be mostly for those requiring very heavy weight losses. We've seen some very big deals in this space just this year. I've brought two deals here from a few Danish companies. I'm not sure if you know them. They're called Gubra and called Zealand, that have made multiple $100 million deals for phase 1 stage assets in the space. So there's definitely appetite, if we can say so, in the whole sector to buy up promising science. Of course, it needs to be validated. You need to showcase that you have a good safety profile. But we also do see a lot of competition for what is out there. The most recent deal we've seen was the largest so far in the entire obesity sector in its lifetime, which was $10 billion for a phase 2 stage asset, which was Pfizer. They were in competition with Novo to buy it and ended up paying $10 billion altogether for this company. So the money is out there. Desire to get into this obesity market is definitely there. And this is also something I can confirm that we feel when we are out and talking to larger pharma companies. So the fight is there, but who are the next potential candidates? I would love to stand here and say we should be the ideal next candidate for any pharma company out there looking for a differentiated oral solution. We definitely feel that oral is the way to go going forward. We're dealing with exceptionally large patient numbers as well as these off-label cosmetic purposes that I mentioned before. And really the only way to address that is with oral solutions. We've seen from doctors, here's a slide I took a picture of from the European Diabetes Association's meeting in September, that the doctors are basically saying, we know that the demand is there, it's increasing, we cannot produce so much GLP-1, so let's look at what we can do to get more oral solutions. The current generation products are, of course, limited in some ways by the fact that they need to be kept refrigerated, they need to be transported under certain circumstances. Some people might have a phobia of needles, and then there's, of course, also the cost. So overall, the transition and the sentiment in the industry is definitely that oral solutions are going to be what dominates the next 5 to 10 years. And the reason for that, of course, as well, is the accessibility. Now, accessibility is a difficult term to describe, but it's basically become very prevalently used in the industry because of the issues of GLP-1s. What has happened was that GLP-1s have been introduced to the market, but the production capacities have not followed. So we have seen shortages in the last couple of years among some of these products that have been marketed. But when they have been in shortages, the law in the United States specifically have said that pharmacies, as well as other companies, could actually go out and produce biosimilar versions, so copies basically, and they could sell them directly to their consumers. But this has made it exceptionally difficult for companies to come back and say, oh, we would love to see you come back on our branded version that costs 5 times as much as what you've just had for the past couple of months. So accessibility is an issue that they're all fighting with. The only reason, or the only way that they could likely overcome that is to introduce oral solutions to win customers back. Now, it's always been difficult to push oral solutions past the different phases. There's always been, of course, the question of efficacy as well as scalability, but what we see and what we feel is definitely that the oral solutions are key to meet the demand that we see in this market. I think I mentioned it before. If I haven't, then I will say it again. We have more than 1 billion people globally that are living with obesity, which is BMI above 30. We have about 4 billion people who are living with overweight, which is BMI over 27. I would imagine that most people, as they age, will likely increase a little bit in BMI. So there's a huge amount of people out there who could potentially benefit from new medicine that could either help them lose the weight that they desire or potentially also keep them at the weight that they like and at which they live well. So high weight loss is good for some, those who need it, but moderate and high quality weight loss is more the way to go forward if you are to really make a dent in this public health crisis. In our world, the way to go forward in terms of pills will likely be small molecules. Small molecules, of course, are much simpler to produce. Chemically speaking, they're simpler in their nature. We're going to see a couple different oral solutions being introduced in a couple months. Both Novo and Eli Lilly are coming to market and will be like sort of the first movers to pave the road for the obesity oral market. Novo will be introducing a large molecule in a tablet, while Eli Lilly is coming together with a small molecule. It will be very interesting to see how they perform. We feel small molecules will always be the winner because they far and wide will be easier to scale. And then there's the secondary thing, which is that GLP-1 as a segment is getting very, very saturated. What do I mean by that? I mean that we're seeing hundreds of products, hundreds of GLP-1 analogs in development in China specifically. We're seeing quite a few deals for these, but we also see now that bigger pharma companies are coming out and actually voicing that they will start to discontinue programs because they're not seeing there's room for so many types of GLP-1 products. All right, I'll switch back to who we are. So we are developing a TRPV1 antagonist, or inhibitor, as some would call it, for treatment of obesity and diabetes. We are working with a molecule that is super simple in terms of its chemical synthesis. We have a very nice formulation for the tablet, which makes it small and simple. It is super stable. I've actually brought a small slide to showcase you that we've made some stability tests to check how degraded it was after 5 years of sitting on a ledger, and it has basically not degraded at all. So that, of course, is very good if you wish to send a type of medication out globally so that patients can go to their local pharmacy, whether they're in Indonesia or whether they're in Sweden. They know that the product is there and it can actually withstand the time. We have a molecule that has already been tested in quite a few humans. We took it over from a British biotech some years ago. So we ourselves have conducted 2 clinical trials in people living with overweight and type 2 diabetes, but the drug itself has actually been dosed to 300 humans already. So we have a lot of data already on the safety. We also have a lot of data on efficacy. As a small biotech company, of course, it is about building a data package that really becomes as comprehensive as possible. So we are vastly determined to keep building this. Of course, diabetes data is great, but with this obesity market really coming through and encompassing everything, we feel like we also need to add some obesity data to this. TRPV1 as a receptor is located on all sensory nerves throughout the body, so it's completely different than these hormones that the other companies are trying to target in terms of trying to inhibit either the satiety or trying to make the wish, like the fullness, last for longer. We believe that this receptor, which is a key regulator of inflammation and pain, it could also have a role to play in terms of regulating metabolic conditions such as obesity and diabetes. It was discovered in '97, but awarded the Nobel Prize in 2021, and it is most commonly known as the capsaicin receptor in scientific circles, because it is the receptor for which capsaicin, which is the active ingredient in chili, it binds to. We were founded in 2014, but our science actually goes all the way back to 1999, where this was discovered as a potential new mechanism to treat metabolic conditions by Dr. Dorte Gram. She was a scientist at Novo Nordisk. She was working on these once-weekly insulin projects first, and subsequently also on once-weekly GLP-1s. She was the scientist that actually were part of the obesity pharmacology unit that was screening molecules for future obesity projects, and she was the scientist that actually pointed to the molecule that is now semaglutide, so the active ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy. So she's found a needle in a haystack once, and we're very hopeful that she's done it again with this drug that we work with. We bought our molecule in 2016, and we listed in 2021, and to our knowledge, we're actually the only company globally that is addressing TRPV1 as a target for treatment of obesity and diabetes. That, of course, comes with some good and bad things. I would say it's good to have a first-mover advantage if we showcase that it works. That will mean that we're very alone with having an interesting project. But, of course, it's also challenging in the sense that we also have to educate a lot of people and a lot of scientists around the target. We have a lot of data on TRPV1 as a regulator of many different things. But one of the things I find interesting is that a concept like longevity is, of course, very much present in this day, where we're talking a lot about we need to make people live longer, but we also need to make them live better for longer. So for the lifetime that they have, they also need to live well. But what we found interesting with this one was that we saw that mice that are lacking this receptor and thus supposedly will not get as high levels of inflammation, they actually also live longer. So I would love to replicate this in a human study, but then again, as a small company with limited resources, we also need to prioritize what our investors like to see. But we have seen some data on obesity specifically. So this is actually a study that Dorte had conducted back in her time at Novo, where she had dosed some sucker rats with a TRPV1 inhibitor and seen that they put on drastically less weight than the other placebo-dosed rats. So this is a rat model where they have a gene deficiency. That means that they don't have any feeling of satiety, so they just eat constantly, day and night, and they put on a lot of weight. So this model specifically aims to see if you can inhibit body weight gain, and this has been very nicely shown in this particular study, and this is actually something that I can reveal that we will, for those who follow us, they know, but for those who don't, we will replicate this model with our molecule in the very short term. So hopefully there's some nice, interesting results to come from this very soon. We expect it to have a slightly different profile to the GLP-1 analogs out there. Those are mostly working towards trying to affect your hunger, whilst we also believe that our type of drug could potentially have an effect on increasing the energy expenditure in the body, and thus we could speculate that it could lead to a more sort of lean weight loss, where you retain more muscle mass, but you lose more fat mass. And like I said before, this is a receptor that is located on the entire body. So we also do believe that if we are correct that this regulator of inflammation, if we can sort of downregulate inflammation in the whole body, we should see whole body effects. We should see effects on all organs as well. And that, of course, makes it super interesting for pharma partnerships if we can have some biomarkers that show effect on, for example, liver and kidney and heart. We already do have quite a bit of data on heart disease that is very promising. So going forward, last time I was here was in June, I believe. And shortly thereafter, we went out to the market and said we had an ambition to raise capital to engage ourselves in obesity research more dedicatedly. We chose the perfect time to go out, in my opinion, which was the first 2 weeks of July. So very not typical in Sweden to go out at this point in time, but it worked super well. We managed to get a significant oversubscription to our rights issue that was oversubscribed to 293.5%. We got fueled with almost 30 million Swedish kronas, and we have this warrant in February on the backside of these upcoming rat studies that I will explain in a minute, that could potentially fuel the company further and fund actual clinical studies in obesity. This is the plan for now. We are looking to get results in these preclinical proof of concept trials in a very short amount of time. The exact date is still not been communicated to the market, but we are still on track, and so things are still looking good in our opinion, and we're very much looking forward to see. We're going to use 2 different rat models in order to have as comprehensive data package as possible. And this is only to showcase that subsequently to rat studies, we would wish to move into clinical studies where this is sort of the model. We would like to make some phase 1b/2a kind of studies where we dose escalate up to assess both the safety and efficacy over 3 months. But we would have 2 parallel studies, one with people living solely with obesity and one with obesity and diabetes. So it could be very interesting. Of course, this is the model for the diabetes study. The obesity study would look a little bit different, but similar type of studies. In terms of patents, we work with a late patent strategy. We have a desire to send in new patents that would cover the use of our drug in different diseases such as obesity, diabetes. There's also the opportunity in pain, cardiovascular disease, and then we will also send in new patents on the synthesis of the drug as well as the formulation. This has already been funded through the rights issue in the summer. So we will communicate more once there is something to be said there. And just benchmarking ourselves against the next generation oral obesity drugs that are coming, we do think that we will have a significantly differentiated type of drug compared to them. They are, of course, based on GLP-1, which is a great angle, and they have for sure shown that they can produce high-quality weight loss, but their scalability is still not really been defined. We think going forward there will be a lot of talks around especially the synthesis and also, of course, how high the bioavailability of the drugs that are coming to market will be. And then there's the question of whether you need to take your drug with or without food. In this instance, you will see that at least one of the others will have a restriction there. So again, we don't anticipate that will be the same for ours. Product profile, there's a bunch of course, injectable solutions on here right now in the bottom. The 2 upcoming oral ones will be in the bottom right corner as well, next to the single one there. We do anticipate that ours will have a completely different side effect profile. There is gastrointestinal issues with these other products, generally speaking. This is something that leads to very high continuation rates among patients. And we don't foresee any of that. We think we will have more sort of nervous system disorders, such as, for example, different sensations, somewhat altered feeling of hot and cold. And this is, of course, very natural when you're dealing with receptors that are located on nerves. So just to round off, we also have, as I said, a small molecule that also gives the options for further applications. We can also combine our molecule with other small molecules that can be for the purpose of, let's say, enhancing a weight loss profile so that you have, let's say, more lean mass preserved. It could also be that you want to alter the side effect profile of a current drug. So there's many different applications around this. We still need to showcase that it works in terms of generating some efficacy. We need to showcase that there's secondary outcome effects, and we also need to showcase that it's safe in higher doses and over longer durations. So I will just run through these very fast. We have a nice scientific advisory board, some very, very smart people on obesity and diabetes. We will be looking to upgrade this as well once we move through the different stages. We also have a small management team with myself, our Swedish CFO, Hampus, and of course our founder, Dora Gram, who's also the chairman. So very small but very condensed little team, and we work very well together. And I know that the team back at home are working very hard on all the operational things while I'm here. And the board of directors, Dora as well as the chairman, but we do also have some pharma-heavy profiles that have a lot of experience and knowledge in terms of pushing drugs in the later stages through the clinic as well as towards launch. So we do feel like they add a lot of experience as we are navigating our path forward towards potential partnership or acquisition. We will see where it ends up. So I would like to say, come join the journey. We have a feeling we will go in one direction before too long. If all goes well, of course, this can be hugely exciting. This is an amazingly large market opportunity if you have something that works and something that is safe. And currently I think we're priced as the lowest valued clinical stage obesity firm globally. So there's room to grow, if we can say so. So thank you very much, and taking your questions.
Thank you very much, Gustav. We don't actually have that much time, but
that's okay.
I just wanted to go back to your sort of news flow going forward. What should we expect? What kind of milestones? Is it that you go into the clinical trials, or is that a major thing, I think?
Yeah, so the major thing here and now, of course, is that the last sort of pivotal news we communicated was that we had signed an agreement with a Danish company called Gubra to do these 2 rat studies. Yeah. And we're anticipating the results from them in the early stages of 2026. So that's, of course, is the major catalyst here and now. We also do plan to hopefully send out some information regarding the next clinical trials, such as, for example, sending in a clinical trial application. That would be great. I cannot comment on the timeline for this right now. And then there's, of course, also the patent. So we do hope we can communicate a lot more in the coming months, which is great, because as a small biotech, you know, that's what you want. You want to have interesting things to say.
Oh, of course. I mean, when it comes to clinical trials, do you see a strong interest for, I mean, partners to be able to actually go through with the
I would say that the interest we've seen so far has centered around pharmas being very curious and interested in the mechanism, which is so vastly differentiated. And of course, they like the fact that it's oral. They see the same things as we do. So what they have asked us and what probed us to go back and raise the funds in the summer was that they said, we would love to see some obesity data on this. And the fastest way we could do that was to do some rat studies, right? So my impression is that, you know, good obesity rat data will definitely strengthen the relations with pharma. It could be that they wish to see phase 1 data as well. But it remains to be seen. It all depends, right? And it also depends on how a type of product like ours could fit into the portfolio of any other bigger pharma company.
Yeah, of course. Time flies, Gustav. We don't have any more.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.